Get your day started right. From our shack to yours, this is Coffee and Ham Radios. We are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about tuning up antennas and how to tune antennas and what are some gotchas, and specifically some multi-band antennas, like the kind of kits that we sell over on Coffee and Ham Radios, because there are some tricks, and we've got some experts here. Not me. I'm talking about Ape and Chuck.
More like Chuck, I think.
So we'll go to the second level expert. We'll go to Ape first, then we'll go to the master, the absolute master. Ape, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited to be here. Thanks to everybody in the chat. How's everybody doing? I'm trying to say hi to everybody, but it's going by a little too fast for me.
That's good,
dude. I did the battery test yesterday. I guess a company sent me a battery. The thing it discharged for 11 hours. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was all day. I had to pay attention to that thing.
Is that good or bad?
It was good. It did over 100 amp hours.
It's a 5 amp hour battery. You got 11 hours out of it. That's fantastic. It's an 11 amp hour battery, and you got 11. That's borderline.
Well, what's funny
you
is
got 11.
Yeah, what's funny is I watch a lot of the battery channels because I'm interested in batteries, and there's this one guy. There's this one guy that I watched, but he constantly is like, I don't use no fancy computers to test my batteries. That's all scientifical bro stuff. It ain't, and he goes on and on about how you shouldn't do it like that. And he goes, I throw a chainsaw at it. I've never seen him test an electronic chainsaw, but he's like, this battery here is real good. I used my drill for about 6 hours. You know what I mean? There's like just no reference point, no measurements, no nothing. I'm just like, why do people watch this guy? But I guess he's entertaining.
Yes, I guess.
Well, that's not the guy I watch then. I don't know who that guy is.
No, this is just some redneck. I like watching him because he does redneck stuff, and I like doing redneck
professor.
Stuff. Yeah, who, by the way, uses a meter to test his batteries, right?
Yes. He actually used what I used, except that he has the Victron one, which tells you more information. You don't have to figure it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nick's like, why do you watch him? Like I said, he does a bunch of redneck stuff, and I like watching redneck stuff.
Some things are all about entertainment,
You might see something explode, right?
Right. He might burn his shack down, and I want to be there for it.
A very wise person told me, life isn't about balance, life is about counterbalance. So you watch an hour and a half of educational stuff, you watch an hour and a half of entertainment stuff, and there's your counterbalance.
There you go.
You could argue that that's balance too, but there's such wildly opposite things. Like you can't balance like burning up batteries with testing longevity of batteries. Those are wildly opposite things. So I was trying to put it in context of opposites. So.
Yeah, I watch this other guy who does radio alignments and stuff like that, and he is just terrible at it. And like he'll show on an oscilloscope it's supposed to be a sinusoidal waveform with amplitude modulation on it. And he's just got like these big squares going across the screen. He's like, that looks good. That looks real good. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
I was like, anybody can see. And then he measures like SWR, and he's constantly like, this radio here does about 1.8 SWR. And I'm like, the radio does the SWR? But it's fun to watch.
Let's talk to Chuck. Get our resident expert, our resident expert.
I did a Bofeng. It's the UV5R replacement for 2023. That's how everybody puts it out there because that's what they're saying. And I don't know, for a change, a Bofeng did okay for me. It's
not your normal thing, so I can see that.
It's not. It's not usually a good one for me, but usually I get unsubs when I put up a Bofeng.
So Lon's asking if an automotive battery load tester would work. And I think no, it would not. It's pulling too many amps.
Yeah, I look at
they're adjustable though sometimes.
Yeah, there's one at Harbor Freight that I was looking at. I think it's called a pile tester. I think is what they call that. Mm-hmm. And when I looked at it, and I could be wrong about it, it tests an initial inrush of current. It doesn't do sustained. Like you can't set it to say, hey, draw 20 amps for 5 hours.
They used to make them that way, but I don't know if you can still buy those. Snap-on are the really nice ones, and some of the battery companies made them where you had like a couple dials and you could dial in 10 amps but
I mean, a lot of car batteries will give you 12 volts all day long sitting there, and then you try to crank, and there's just not enough. There's not enough
Right.
juice in the box to pull that
I
out. So
also got this Fin Lab that I'm going to do a little video on.
Sweet.
cool.
It's a cheap
Love
multimeter.
multimeters.
You know what?
So I interrupted you while you were talking about the Baofeng, Chuck.
Oh, it's no big deal. I thought that was going to be a really good radio, and I'm looking like my buddy's getting ready to go to Baja, so I gave him one of my other Baofengs that you can USB charge. I'm like, well, shoot, now you don't have to take so many chargers, you know. And I go, well, I'll buy this. I'll get this one. They send it to me. It has like what they call a color screen. Some guy, he actually mentions, he goes, I didn't know blue and black was a color screen. Well, yeah, it is, but
Yeah, I mean, if you
not
look at the rainbow, say, tell them to taste the
It's-
rainbow
it's-
and get a pack of Skittles.
and he's right.
Black
It
and white is a
wasn't.
color screen if you want to argue. Yeah.
It's not one of the, it doesn't look like an FT3R or 5R or whatever, but it is. But as soon as you take it outside, you can't see the screen. I mean, it just goes black. It's like, oh, that's pretty useless. But I mean, for motorcycle dirt bike riding, I want something cheap that I don't want to like
Drop
fall,
it on the
'cause
trail and not go get it.
believe me, I fall a lot more than I used to on the motorcycles and crash. And if I crash and break a $35 radio, oh well, So, and the USB thing is cool. I think they should all come with USB charge, even if it's not the only charging system.
Well, it's kind of shocking that they don't at this day and
Yeah.
age. You know what I mean?
Yeah, did the new Icom? I mean, you can charge the 705 that way.
So we heard, I guess it was about 3 years ago, from the different companies that, hey, putting USB on there requires a design, it requires submitting to the FCC and all that stuff. But I mean, that's like 3 years ago. You know what I mean? By now,
Yeah.
I just don't get that.
Well, and you still get products that don't even do USB, even if they do USB stuff that's not C, which is, it'd be nice if they all, even Apple went to that on some of their products.
Just bypass that and go straight to wireless charging. Leap a generation.
Yeah, I don't use wireless at all.
Yeah, I don't either. I have it on my little Blue Yeti thing, but you almost have to take the case off, I think, to get it to work half the time.
Well, see, I think Ken is right. He's saying that the ability of USB-C to charge out, to pump out the higher amperage, and to me, that's the thing, right? Like, forget the
Right.
old legacy USB stuff. I mean, USB-C's been around for what, 10 years now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's been quite
Almost as long as HDMI.
almost.
I can get the HDMI argument, to be honest with you.
So I don't know. That's all I've been doing. I've got a couple projects. I'm trying to. Couple antenna projects I'm going to work on. Well, I've got our new antenna project that I sent the boys out a kit yesterday, and they need to all build it to make sure I didn't make any mistakes.
Well, you didn't make
Then
any
those will
mistakes.
be
You're
available.
a genius.
I found one mistake on my list, but it was on what I built already. I already built one,
Right,
so
Jason.
I pretty much know it works. But yeah, we'll see. If you guys have any ideas, and I've got a little twist. I'll talk to you guys what I'm going to do on my video for it, but it's just to improve it just a little bit if you want to get in the lower bands is all.
So
Something we might offer.
on the topic at hand for the day, let's start off talking about the NFET half wave, because that's our original antenna. And the NFET half wave has 4 bands: 40, 20, 15, and 10. So where should you start tuning that? You start on 40, you start on 10? What do you think?
I always start on 40.
40, because that gets you everything.
Right, because I can't-
with that particular antenna.
I can't cut it to tune 10, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The
Seems
other
too
thing
big.
is that I like NFET half wave antennas. I always like using them because they're multi-banded, and the bonus that you get with that, like a 9-to-1's multi-banded too. So like 8, why don't you use 9-to-1? I use 9-to-1s all the time. I love them, but 9-to-1s require a 10-to-1 tuner, right? You can't really tune in or touch up dude. I get that you can make one at a certain length that might not, but
Yeah.
the majority of them and the general consensus is that you need a 10-to-1, right? And because like a lot of times you'll get one band that you want to work that's like a 7-to-1 SWR. So the thing is that's why I go with the NFET half wave. I get less bands, but I think I get better performance, and it's actually harmonically near resonant on multiple of those bands. But 10 is always a little bit. It's not as good as a 10-meter dipole, right? Like if you get a 40-meter NFET half wave, you can do 10 on it. But if you put up a 10-meter dipole, you're going to do better. So I really worry about 40 and 20 and 15 are the ones that I'm mostly concerned about there.
Evan's asking, where is the car stepchild? And we don't talk about that.
Well, I'll give you 3 guesses. 1, he slept in. 2, he's having problems with his audio again. Or 3, he, I don't know. I'll just leave it at 2.
And two's
And your first
probably
guess
it.
doesn't count.
Right.
So
Sounds-
what a lot of people run into when they're tuning an end-fed half wave, though, is that you get it tuned sweet on 40, and 10
Yeah.
is a little out. And is there anything that you can do about that?
There is things that you can do about that. And one of them is the capacity or the capacitor that we add on there, right? Because that capacitor adds capacitance to the antenna and makes it look electronically shorter on 10 meters. So that's one thing. And we use 100 picofarad, but that doesn't mean you have to use 100 picofarad, right? Like if you are having trouble, maybe you should test it with 80 picofarad, or maybe you should test it with 120 and see if that
That's
makes
a
a
good
difference
tip.
or not, right?
Yeah, and the magic of the way the capacitors and the inductors work is that on the lower bands, I always get that backwards. On the lower bands have higher meter numbers. It's invisible. You don't even see it.
Right. Let me see if I can find a...
There's also that the little coil you can put in that for the upper bands, or is that for the lower bands? I forget.
Yeah, the lower bands, you can...
It's
you
about
can put a
5,
compensation
10 feet
coil.
out or something.
Yeah.
I've seen them put them at
But-
the end.
Have you? Mine's. I've got one of my antennas from when I first started getting into the hobby, and theirs was, I think, about I want to say around 10 feet or so. So I think it was
And then-
Nickery, Nickery, DePaul. I put that up for you for the Hexbeam site.
The link.
Sorry
yes.
about
Yes.
sorry about the butcher of your name there. I can barely see it from here, so.
And you don't need glasses, Chuck. You keep telling us you don't need glasses.
I don't, except for up close. And this is not that close, which is pretty bad. It's small.
And Daniel's saying that he thinks that the coil makes it super narrow banded on those high bands. Is that right?
It does. It adds skew.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's the challenge with the Shorty 40. Now, the Shorty 40 is a little bit different than a compensation coil because the Shorty 40, the coil is of a higher inductance, so it acts as a choke to choke out the lower frequencies. The smaller compensation coil that you put on there just adds a little bit of inductance. And that's typically if your antenna is too short, right? You add that coil on there and it makes it seem a little bit longer.
And Ape had me work on some coils, and I came up with some pretty cool little things, but I never could quite get it dialed. And the weather's good again. It was started raining and stuff. And the cool thing about it, I was making them to where they weren't huge coils, but we were getting pretty close. But I don't know. It's all laying over there someplace now.
Yeah. So a lot of people will argue that those high Q narrow banded antennas are actually what you want. They're better. And I'm lazy. I don't want it because I want to just hit the tuner on my radio and get the entire band and not have to go fiddle with it or have multiple antennas for different sections of the same band. I mean, 80 meters, you almost need 2 antennas for, one for 80, one for 75.
Right.
But is a high Q antenna like that, so you get that thing laser focused in on like 14074, for example, for FT8, and you go up to 1490 and it's deaf, and you go down to 1440 and it's deaf. That's how high Q it is. Is that going to put out a better signal? You're gonna get farther? Are you gonna get less? What's that going to do for you?
Yeah, so the challenge around the end-fed half-wave antennas being noisy, right? So you get a lot of people like, I just don't use them because they're noisy, and that's a fair statement because they pick up sound, all right, across the larger spectrum or larger, they're more broad-banded on multiple frequencies, right? 40, 20, 15, 10. But even when you are picking up with a wider Q antenna, you're picking up more sound across the 20-meter band in your example. If you tighten that up, you're picking up less. So you'll have a lower noise floor. You'll have lower interference. And that's why people love them. I tend to think that I'm more of like a typical ham where I don't want to have to switch antennas all the time. I don't want to constantly have to be tuning. I do want to get multiple bands out of an antenna. So I typically use much lower Q antennas and eat the noise, right?
Yeah, I don't notice a ton of noise on mine, but It just depends on where you're at too.
Yeah, well, if you get more signal, you get more noise. That's
And
the
if you're
facts,
and if you're out doing sodas or
Yeah.
potas, it's usually quieter unless you're in a campground.
Right.
Campgrounds can be really noisy, and Tio's going to find that out when he starts getting on the road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, see, it's like some of this noise is not technically interference, though, right? Like, so, like, you could get interference from a
Right.
power supply, your wife's phone charger, you know, the
Oh yeah,
microwave, the
I've
dryer.
seen that. Phone
That's
chargers.
that's interference. Like, so when I'm talking about noise, I'm talking more about somebody transmitting 20K up,
Oh.
right? Like, I may get that because my antenna technically can pick that, can hear that. But the thing is I'm relying on my passband filter at that point in my radio, not my band pass, but my passband filter to filter all that out. And depending upon the strength of that signal and the quality of the passband filtering, you know, may have a problem or not.
45 asked if he could add wire to get 80 meters or 80 meter with his Artemis
Alter the
or the
tuning.
Apollo.
Yeah. You definitely can.
It may alter it a little bit, but you should still get all those. Basically, you're adding 80, and I don't think there's anything in between. But what you could do instead of like getting a whole new, just put a link out, do like a link dipole for it, and just link the extra wire, and then tune it to where you kind of want it, and then you can take it back off. The reason we don't do that is our antennas are mainly portable, and 80 is
130
really hard to
some
do
foot of
portable.
wire.
That's a lot of
I mean,
wire.
you could make a 160 meter end-fed half wave if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the
Oh, yeah,
other
you
challenge
can.
is that the toroid, you probably would need a higher toroid to do the impedance match, and then you mean the bigger toroid. The other one is that you may want to look at some other mixes, but Chuck's totally right. Like when we talked about the antenna, we sat down and you know, mapped it out. It was, hey, we want something portable. The other one is 80 meters is a lot more wire for that winder. So you could do it.
You have to put it on a separate winder because that's a lot of
Yeah.
wire. That's double the wire. Basically, it's when you look at wire sizes, you basically from 40 to 80 is double the size. So it's a lot of wire. I tried to throw one up for field day the first time. I was just into it. My buddy and I just got our licenses, and it was so hard to hang because I was actually using my antennas and trying to do it off my spider beam, and the spider beam's a pretty good pole. And it just bent that thing over. So much wire in the air.
Right.
It was terrible.
You'd have a
And if we'd done-
backstay
if
to
we-
keep the poles straight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It would have been better off just to done an 80 meter dipole and done it from the middle. You know, sometimes a dipole is
Huge.
And a
That's a
dipole
lot of wire.
That's still a lot of wire, but at least you're going two different directions. You can do that, but you could, and you can do an inverted V with that also. I don't do the inverted V much with the infed halfways, mainly because
No.
a sloper's so easy.
Yeah, I do sloper with end-fed half wave.
Yeah.
Dipoles and link dipoles and off-center feds and all that stuff, I do inverted Vs.
Yes, about 130 feet, 135, something like that.
And we use a pretty light wire, so the 130 feet of that is a lot lighter than if you were using
It was
Some
lighter
of
than
the
that antenna.
heavier stuff.
And you might, if you're only doing it, here and there, use some 26 for the end of it maybe, and see if that, that might be a little heavy, but it might lighten everything up for you.
We got Don Izzo in the chat. What's up, Don?
Don Izzo
Yeah.
from the 911 center.
Exactly, from dispatch. So I saw you pull up your official Coffee and Ham Radio's tumbler
did.
there, Chuck. What you drinking this morning?
I have got some French roast.
Oh, awesome.
Like-
I'm still with
like
the
the
Earl
French.
Grey. I'm trying to deplete stock. Downside.
Yeah, I do tea every once in a while. I like
We've
tea.
awakened the Thump. He's in there.
Up.
And then we got, I guess with James not here, this is my duty today, right?
Yeah, I don't have that. Thanks,
Thank you,
Richie.
Richie.
Richie's radio room.
Thank you very much, Richie.
So everybody at home, Tumbler Club. What are you guys drinking? What's in the tumbler
What's in
today?
the tumbler?
Yeah, post it in the chat. I got iced tea going in mine.
Do you?
That's good.
Yeah, but see, it's way early at my house for iced tea, man. For me.
There's
Well,
the
the only
Tiki
reason I got
sipping
iced tea in mine is because I couldn't find the Dr. Pepper. So
It'll keep Dr. Pepper cold for a while too.
The problem is that my wife occasionally will make a picture of peach iced tea. And while I like peaches, I don't like peach iced tea.
I like
You know what I'm
peaches.
saying?
I like peaches.
So I just,
So I was telling you, Abe, the other day, I had some coffee in at our coffee and ham radio. I think it was last Saturday. I put some coffee in the tumbler in the morning, and then I was like, this is enough coffee for me for a while. I put it in the fridge to be iced coffee. I don't know. What did I come back at, like 4 p.m. or something? I'm
yeah, and you're like,
"Man,
that Joker's still hot.
my coffee's still hot. I had it in the fridge since the show ended.
Yeah,
it'll do
what I like the most about it is I can make a nice icy drink, and then when I go,
Oh,
I'll
you
put
have
it
one
on
now?
Yeah, I got it back from the kid there. So what I do is I take it and I put it on the nightstand, and if I get up in the middle of the night, I can take a little sip of something. But when I get up in the morning, I still have icy goodness sitting right next to the bed. I can get myself a nice little fresh something to wet that whistle.
Cold
You know what I'm
drinking
saying?
is
The
good.
ice will still be in there, like 20 hours later.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And to be honest, I think they should have these
Marvin
at
likes
bars.
H2O.
I'm going to talk to the local. I'm going to talk to the local wing place and be like, "Look, y'all, you need some car mugs up in this joint. Keep that beer cold, because it's actually
That's right.
better than a mug."
So, for tuning, an easy way to tune, and I don't know how much it changes, but doing the inverted V, because usually you're taking off from the end, right? But doing an inverted V and using those little, we give them with some of our antennas, the little S hooks. You can run it through those S hooks, and that works
Yeah.
good because you can just kind of pull it through and wind it around the wire.
Yep.
Because you don't want to cut until you get it close.
That was the tip I wanted to bring up next, was winding it around the end of the wire. So if you take that wire and you just fold it back on the end, you get you're not really shortening the wire 100% because you're getting some induction or you're getting some capacitance at the end of the wire, I think is what it is. So you're actually, if you fold it over onto itself, let's say 4 inches, I'm just using numbers for the stream. You fold it over onto itself for 4 inches, you're only really taking like an inch off the wire.
Yeah. So what I'll do, because I usually leave mine long, and our wire tends to be long compared to other wires. We're about,
Electrically.
I think our antennas are about a foot, somewhere in that 6 to
Mutual
12
inductance.
inches
Thanks, Lee.
difference. And what I'll do is I'll bend it over a couple times, and then when I get an extra section, then I'll cut that and check it.
Yeah,
And then, because it does change, because I don't want a ton of wire at the end, usually, because then
Yeah.
you get this
So-
heavy little section,
So instead of just folding it back, when you fold it back, wrap it around the wire, and it's going to cancel out some of that mutual inductance, as Lee says.
In
and it'll
our
make it easier
silicone
for you.
wire, when you wrap it around, it doesn't leave all that in it. Like, I had other wire, when you wrap it, I was like, oh man, now I got to use that
Now you
spot
have a
that was
spring.
wrapped. Yeah. But ours is pretty good about not having much memory to it. And
So
some
that's the
people
good
don't
thing
like
about-
it, but
That's the good thing about tuning an end-fed half wave, is you only have one end of the wire to trim, and
Right.
just So the other thing, and this is what got me at first too, when you put the antenna together first and you put it on your Nano VNA, it will tell you where the antenna is resonant, and if it is lower in frequency, then the antenna is too long. If it's higher in frequency, the antenna is too short. And so doing that fold back, twist around trick, you can kind of dance around that number until you get it to where you want it, and then make that cut and one last check to see, to verify that you're within the parameters that you wanted. So if it is lower in frequency, shrink the wire down a bit.
yeah. So one of the things that I like to do is also put a piece of heat shrink on the end of that antenna, because if you have even just a little bit of bare metal that's coming out of there, you can have problems, right? Like it can
right back.
spark, it can get hot. You can get water in there, and that water will wick up the antenna and can cause grief for you.
Yeah.
So the challenge for me is that you fold it over, and I zip tie it because I like to be able to go back and unfold it if necessary. But then I like to put a piece of heat shrink on there, and then I usually put a dog bone or some sort of insulator. And cutting that is a huge pain in the ass for me because I have to dress the end of it again, right? Like there's work that you need to do there. So this is one of the things that I do, and it's still a pain in the ass, but it's not as bad. Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah.
So
You
what
do
we
a
have
little
here
bit
is
bigger.
this is my sloping end fed half wave, and I have one end up in the tree, for example, and then here's my Artemis frame down here hooked to the milk jug like Chuck likes to do, and that's me. And so what I'll actually do, instead of taking it down and trimming this end, is that I will disconnect it here and trim that end. And all I have to do is put a lug back on. And then once I get to the correct frequency that I want, then what I'll do is I'll heat shrink the lug on the end. Because I just need to disconnect it here, and it's easy, right? So if I have to take this down, then I take it down, I cut it, and then I got to get it back up in the tree, and hopefully my angle's the same and all that other stuff. So,
and you could technically just take the wire and wrap it around the bolt.
Yeah,
and not put your lug on right away.
Is adjust it right there is my recommendation for all.
Ape, I love how you came prepared to the stream today. That was fantastic.
Ape was talking about putting something on the end, and what I like to do on mine is let me see if I can get this thing where you guys can see it. Let me cover my face.
Yeah,
I put a little heat shrink on the end sometimes when I remember before I do the little circle, and that gives you a little more strength there. But I've got another thing I'm going to do. I ordered some stuff yesterday to make a little better end on it, and then I use the ferrules. Can you guys see this part here?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Instead of using like a zip tie or something like that, I use the little ferrules. And I know the size that fits the 22 gauge wire, and it clamps down nice and tight.
Do you have some bare wire and an empty ferrule there, Chuck? Because
Sure.
you had it all hidden in the heat shrink, so we can give them a little demonstration.
Yeah, I do. I always have a little extra wire hanging around. Go ahead and talk for a second.
Well, I got another thing. Let me show real quick. If I go back to my eye in the sky cam. So this is a little bit of the challenge. I think you were talking about it earlier, T.O. So, like, say these red lines represent the 40-meter band, and the red lines here represent the 20-meter band. The worst thing that you can have happen is you have your lowest part of your dips just higher or just lower than 40 and just higher than 20, right? Because if you cut the antenna shorter to make it to move this dip,
going to move, yeah.
then 20 is going to move. The 20 is going to move further out, and that's why sometimes you'll see people put those compensation coils in here. Actually, compensation coil will make it a little bit longer. But what they'll do at that point is they'll just cut this end here until 20 is where you want it, and then compensate this end right here. Is a way to do it. Another thing is that sometimes people don't use coils. Sometimes they'll actually put a capacitor in line somewhere along the length of that antenna to add extra capacitance. So people play different tricks with it.
Ken is right there with you.
The situation that they have.
So
Randy's doing a fantastic job with the production today.
Yeah. Good job, Randy.
So you can
Chuck's
put these
almost
ferrules. You can put these ferrules on two different ways. I haven't really decided which way I like better, but they have like a little.
Your own solo, Chuck.
Oh, I was threading it through here. So here's the ferrule. You guys can see that? Is it focusing?
So the wire goes up through the ferrule, loops around, and comes back down through the ferrule.
Yeah, and I'll leave just a little bit, probably not that much, and then you just take the.
It's just
tool.
basically a tube, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just a tube.
And then there's a special kind of crimper that you get for the ferrules. That
Let me show you the crimper first.
I love this crimper. This is sexy.
And you can buy
Go
this
and give it a
kit.
squeeze, Chuck. Give it a squeeze.
Oh, here you go.
Okay, it squeezes in from all directions.
And it's adjustable, but I don't know why, because it just worked anyhow. So I'll put that on there. And I started doing this when I started messing with hex beams, because when you're doing the hex beams, so you just put it in there, you figure out what size loop you want.
I don't know if Anime's talking about the ferrule, the crimpers, or Chuck.
I think she's talking about
say?
Chuck.
Yeah, probably.
You're ham sexy. I think Chuck's ham sexy too. So yeah.
I've met Anime before. So then it just does that, and then I put a little heat shrink around it. And it pretty much won't pull out. I mean, I've never had one pull out. But I've got another system I'm going to start doing.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
not
saying,
gonna
Chuck, don't do that.
Oh yeah. So at least
Thank
twice I
you.
did.
Thank you, Anime. Much appreciated.
Yeah, how about that?
So that just makes it. I mean, that makes it look more professional when you get
Now
done.
she's calling us tools. So, counterbalance.
Yeah.
Bring us up, knock us back down again. I see.
So I like to. I'm getting to where I like to finish my antennas. Since we're selling antennas, I like to finish them off nicer than I used to.
Yeah, it got to be all professional like.
Sometimes you'll see mine. It just has a piece of tape holding it on there with a couple of wraps. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to represent, Chuck.
Part of being a
Yep,
YouTuber,
those right there.
you got to make them look good, right?
So
not
we
all,
give these.
not
with
all
the-
YouTubers have to.
We give these with the linked dipole. Do we also give these with the Artemis? I don't remember.
No, we don't. I don't, because the Artemis hooks down at the bottom,
We don't
And they
we
don't-
don't
and they
sell
don't-
the
they
Artemis
don't-
anymore.
or the Apollo.
The Apollo. Sorry, somebody in the,
The
chat
new
mentioned
version.
Artemis. One of our longtime supporters and fans, and I was just running with it.
Right.
Those work good for the top of the for your dipole antennas. They don't really fit in our winders, not at least not where you'd want to do it, unless you put a piece of little paracord at the bottom, which is a good idea too. I like that little 1/8-inch paracord or fishing line. That stuff works.
I
Really
use the
good for
bank
stuff.
line. I use the tarred bank line. I think that stuff's
I
great.
just bought this stuff. It's
I can never find it though. That's the problem.
this stuff here. It's this is the company if you guys want to see it.
Is that Zing It?
It's too bright.
You're washing out a little bit.
It's
there, Chuck.
upside
it's
down.
like it's not fishing. This is not fishing line. Let's see if it has anything on it.
See, Abe,
It's,
you need an antenna making bag.
Yeah.
It's 9 KM DW Life braided.
Wait a minute. Don's saying
Survival
the K8
outdoor.
MRD's build includes the carabiner. What does he? I didn't know K8 MRD had an antenna out.
I think he's talking about ours. I think he added that to his. It works on the ends, but it
I
doesn't
mean, that's
work
the
where
good
you
part
hook-
about our kits is that you can
hook it up.
customize them any way you want.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the thing is it is a kit, right? It's a modular kit that you can do.
Right.
That's exactly.
And that's what confused a lot of people with our Artemis kit is 8 built it totally different than everybody else.
Right.
So, Martin,
It's-
that
it's
is
your-
an LA
basically
police
it's your
gear
antenna.
bag.
Yeah.
Right.
511. Oh, that's the
511's good
LA
stuff.
police. Yeah, they're
LA
There
police
we
gear is
go.
usually a little more affordable.
There you
lot
go.
more.
Don clears it up for us.
Yes.
Yeah, he had his own. He had one of those that he used
And
it for.
4.5, you are correct. I have a bag for everything. I have a bag full of bags,
Yes, I do too.
all sorted into
actually.
individual compartments inside the bag.
I got a bag of a bunch of bags I made.
Oop,
I make
okay.
really nice bags, but they're just I can't sell them
Randy.
because they're too expensive to build. I can't buy the stuff cheap enough to build them.
That's right. Add that personal touch.
So when we did our link dipole, and I probably got a little pushback from Ape on this because I understand what he was saying. I wanted to give measurements, but when I did my video, I did say cut a little bit longer. Look at what I get on my settings because I put it all in my video, and leave a little extra. But the nice thing
Awesome,
about
Henry.
it, hey, Tan
Excellent.
Hat. In the nice thing about that is my measurements will get you close. Now your ground may be different than mine, so it may not be exact.
Got to start
And that's-
somewhere.
But that's where Ape was like, well, everybody's ground's going to be a little different. I go, yeah, but it's going to get them close.
We can't
because-
show Tan Hat's question, but he's using his membership to ask a question.
Go ahead.
All right.
Like it doesn't, you can't highlight it, but it says, why folding back an insulated wire sometimes recommended to shorten it? It can actually work if the conductors don't touch. Do the fields cancel? And Teo, you were talking about that mutual inductance that it can cause, right?
Yes.
So you can do it to make the antenna
Yeah.
seem shorter. I wouldn't
Yeah.
fold back 10 feet. You know what I mean? Like maybe an inch or two, but you may have to adjust it.
Yeah, eventually you want to cut some off, but you wanted to do that at small increments also because you may have to actually lengthen it again because
Yeah.
like Tio said, it drops it, but it doesn't drop it like if you took 6 inches off the wire.
Lee's got it.
So, and the fallback
No, I have
is
cut
just,
an
the
antenna too
fallback
short.
Yes, fold-back so you don't have to resolder wire.
Yeah.
No, it was a 40-meter dipole, but then halfway through building it, you decided to make it a 20-meter dipole. You didn't cut it too short.
Well, the thing is that so I have one antenna that I use. The wire that came with it was the ARRL end-fed half-wave antenna, and I've had it up for about 3
nice
years
kit.
now. It's a fantastic kit, but I've got to go out and I've got to trim that antenna every so often because it keeps stretching. And one time I was getting mad because I got cut like a half a foot off because it was so far out, and it still wasn't right. So I cut another half a foot off, which was about 3 inches too much. And I said, "F it, I'm just going to use the tuner to bring it in, and in 2 or 3 months it'll be fine."
Yeah.
And it was because it stretched again.
And you can use a tuner with an end-fed half-wave. There's nothing breaking the rules about that. I mean, it's got an auto transformer, but that just gets it closer to your tuner's ability to match anyway.
It'll touch it up a little bit. Yeah, I even touch up my my Yagis, which are usually pretty close to start with. But when most of my Yagis were done, the FT8 was not a thing, and sometimes they don't like that area because it's way lower.
Right.
And I didn't set mine up for CW, so it's not close down there sometimes. But yeah,
no matter where you say you're going to tune your antenna, somebody's going to have a problem with it.
Yeah, and I've kind of gotten away when I was doing my my hex beam tuning. I threw it up at my house, and it's like, wow, this thing's really off. But I have a bunch of wire and stuff in the air around it, so I tried to go out to the ballpark there, or the soccer field, and then I found out that it's because I used remnant pieces of our wire, which is everything's a little long, unfortunately.
Marvin's stirring the pot.
Oh yeah, Marvin's he's trying to get somebody's hair up on the back of his neck there.
Yeah, yes.
We'll just let this happen.
The answer is yes. And here's what I don't get is that a lot of times people are like, "Oh, that's an end fed. You don't need it on that," but you do on a random wire antenna.
Yes,
they're the exact same thing mechanically and electrically, right?
The difference. I think the difference is on an end fed half wave. It's a half wave antenna, and half wave antennas usually don't need it. Like if you put a half wave on top of your car for your 2 meter, it doesn't need a ground.
Eyebrow. I saw that.
I know. Even though I do have mine in the center of both of my vehicles, it technically does not need a ground.
Yeah, but you got that magnet on there connecting it to the car and all that. But
I
the thing is that
I don't use magnets.
or you could drill the hole in there. You probably got a connection that way. But the thing is that yes, you need one because if you don't have one on there, you're going to get currents traveling down your coaxial cable. And I just had a guy read me the riot act in a video that I did where he was like, "Don't ever counterpoise a 9-to-1. Use the coaxial shield. I've been a ham for 30 years." That's awesome, bro.
The 9-to-1.
I love the fact that the guy's a ham.
more important.
Well, it's the same.
That makes me hurt.
It's the same argument because either antenna is going to use that shield of the counterpoise as.
And I think I told you guys the one thing I did with my antennas in fed half wave, I did ground it because I did notice. Well, I was running 700 watts through it, and it was good for 5,000 or something. But I did notice my SWR creeping up on it. And that thing has dual toroids in it too.
The correct answer, Marvin, is yes. You should use a counterpoise, and then the other answer is that you can come up with a jank solution where you don't. But the thing is that counterpoise is the way to go.
Here and gone. I typically don't run one on my infed halfways, but I do run one on my 9-to-1s.
I thought I saw James for a second.
He was here.
I don't see anybody.
Like a bad rash, he comes back. Jim, give us a count. I can't hear you, bro.
Yeah, we got 0 out of those 3.
0.
James, what is? I didn't have camera this morning. I didn't have video this morning for some reason.
Oh, we had another one up here. Randy's messing up here. What did he have? Somebody was asking a question about cash. Here we go.
If money's no concern, what wire would you buy for a field deploy antenna?
Well, the thing is that I really like the BN for field deployable because it doesn't kink, it doesn't tangle, and it's light. And that silicone wire, sometimes if you just take it and shake it, and you don't start pulling things, it comes apart. But I always pull it sometimes anyhow. But no, if I was setting up a home, a QTH or home antenna, then I use the PolyStealth from the wire guy. It's called PolyStealth.
Yeah, so Paul said field deploy, and that changes a whole lot of things. That brings a different set of compromises. Like the wire is not your problem in a field deploy. It's the field. It's bundling it up and putting it in your bag, and then unbundling it, putting it in a tree, and so on. There's a what do they call that? Wear and tear, service life. There's a different service life on a field deploy antenna than there is on a permanent antenna. Permanent antenna is where you want to spend the money on wire, really.
Yeah, the wire guys, I think where you can get the poly stealth, and that stuff is fantastic wire. But the other thing I use all the time, and I can go grab it, is the Gear IT 18 gauge speaker wire.
Oh yeah, I use that for experiments.
I use it all the time. You can get it's a 200-foot spool of twin lead, so you really get 400 feet of wire for like $20 off of Amazon.
I think I bought a 500 footer. It was like $35. But
yeah, I mean I've gone through like 4 or 5 of them.
My stuff was like aluminum with copper clad, and I use that for ground radio sometimes because it's.
Let me go get
cheap.
this stuff real quick. Almost.
Okay. I thought you were going to say I thought he was going to say his other wire that he's using for his toroids.
Toroids. So Dave's asking, does a counterpoise have to lay on the ground? No, not particularly, but there is a certain height above ground where you have to start trimming your counterpoise. And I'm not particularly sure what it is because I've had it counterpie like 3 feet off the ground without trimming it.
Is that related to the? Is that related to the?
He speaks
the wavelength of the frequency. So, like, if it's above a quarter wavelength or something like that. I don't remember. I read something one time, but
when you raise them,
generically say elevated radials, and I don't know anybody's put a number on it.
When you do an elevated radial, though, it needs to be tuned because it becomes part of
how high.
You don't need as many, though.
This is the stuff, this Gear IT wire.
Come on, Randy.
There you go. And I got this for 20. This one hasn't even been cracked open. I still have a little bit left, but I use this all the time because it's so cheap that something happens to it. I lose it. It breaks. It snaps. I cut it wrong. Whatever. But fantastic.
Any wire works. I mean. You can use fence wire if you want to. Actually, our buddy Colin uses stainless steel,
and that's what I use for these radials.
Braid
is that speaker wire.
Yeah, and the 18 gauge is a little bit better for that because it's a little heavier.
Yeah,
that's what I use for radios too because I don't want to waste silicone wire for. And silicone wire is not the greatest for walking on either. I don't think. Don't walk on your silicone wire.
I'm using DX10 for radials on everything.
That's it. That's good
I mean,
stuff.
I went so far as to buy extra DX10 just because that wire it's hefty wire.
So they're asking if this stuff holds up outside. It is not UV protected, so I'm just going to be open about that. But I've had antennas stay outside for months at a time that are made out of this and have had zero problems with it. And that's what's nice about it is that it's basically free. $20 for 400 feet.
Yeah.
Right.
If I need to replace it, I don't care. Now the thing is that I do a lot of antennas, right? So like I change antennas often, except for my one NFED's been out there for 3 years. But so I'm not leaving them out there forever and a day. Like that stuff could stretch on you if you left it out there all summer long or something like that. It's typically better for a quick deployable antenna that you're going to put up or take down or something like that, or just testing out. Or prototyping or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of guys. He was asking field deployable, and I don't like the poly stealth personally. I mean, it's great if you're going to put an antenna up for permanent. That's one thing. But when you're winding it, when you take that poly stealth and wind it around a winder, you can see every wind all the way up your antenna unless you pull it really tight.
You sure can.
And I don't like that, and it doesn't wind as nice as the silicone. The silicone's a little thicker, so on the bigger antenna, like the NFED half wave for 40, it's quite a bit of wire, and I wind it on both sides. And I don't even bother with that figure eight. If you guys like the figure eight, go ahead, but I don't. I mean, I wind thousands of feet of wire up.
I love the figure eight.
But if you do the figure eight,
I also solder my crimps too.
Or even use a winder for the poly stealth. You're going to have problems because when your antenna's out and it's got a million of those kinks all the way down there, that definitely impacts your radiation pattern.
Yeah, I don't like it. But I do thousands of feet of wire. I did 2,000 feet the other day, and I just wrap it straight.
Flexing all this wire.
That's right. So
I've never tried that flex weave done.
The flex weave. That's supposed to be really nice stuff. It's not cheap. I wonder actually.
Gary's got a
I
question.
Try
I think we
some
kind of already covered it a little bit, didn't we?
A little bit, but we didn't finish.
So I always start with 17 feet, which is a quarter wave on 20. And why I do 17 feet is that when I made my first antenna, somebody said, "Oh, use 17-foot counterpoint."
That was when you were doing
Grandma's ham.
CB. That was CB.
Yeah.
17 feet. Your coax has to be 17 feet.
Right. Everything's 17 feet. And so I've always done it that way. And it seems to work. Sometimes I have to trim it a little bit. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, or sometimes I just put two 17-footers on there. But
Rod, isn't it
17
un-American
feet.
to solder your? Hey,
Yeah, and then you
Rod,
started talking
just crimp
about-
yours.
Now on my 9-to-1, I do. I didn't even measure it. I mean, it's like 20-ish feet.
You're just looking for something for it to push against mainly, right? But you got to be at least a certain length.
Right.
17 is probably minimum.
Yeah, that was where I was going. I didn't measure mine.
I always
I
ask
just,
Gabe because he's
I just did this 3 or
he's
4,
the
5,
counterpoise
6
guy.
times and said,
Well,
good enough.
some guys will die on the hill saying that it needs to be 5% of the length of the lowest band that you're going to, all this stuff.
Right.
God, okay.
Okay, whatever,
There's
bro.
an easy way
I mean,
to do that. Did I ever show you guys my little? I did a chalk box with wire in it, but you got to use like bare wire, and you can just dial it out as far as you want to, and then roll it back
You can do that
in.
with tape measures too. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Just scrape the paint off the tape.
Oh yeah,
measure.
just
So, Ape,
just use tape measure.
Ape, you came back and started talking about elevated radials, and so counterpoise on ground, counterpoise slightly above ground, a foot, 2 foot, and then where does it become necessary to trim your elevated radial to resonance?
to be honest with you, I don't know. And I love when people have to ask me anything in live streams. I always ask, how high is a vertical off the ground before it's not a ground mounted vertical? And
Right.
nobody ever scientifically answers that question. And I think it's the same thing with the counterpoise radials, because my unun is like 3 feet, 2.5 feet off the ground. So a portion of that is not, it's not a ground radial, right? Like it
Right.
just because it comes down at an angle.
That's same
I
thing
don't
I've
know.
got. My 9-to-1, the balun is at the top of the mast.
Balin,
wire comes off.
where you
My 9-to-1.
Kaneki?
My
Okay.
9-to-1.
Got that accent.
Let's see, they're talking about the Kaneki transformer.
Listen, son, I've had a day. I'm a race car. I mean, I respect you and all, but I'm a race car running into red right now.
You're running hot.
Jesus, wept.
He's that guy that spins into the pit.
Man, I turned everything on this morning, all set up, videos all working. Microphones are gone. Mixer's gone. Mics are gone. Can't get anything to. We don't need to do that. We don't need that. No one needs that.
It's a little early in the morning.
Take about 20% off of that, Randy.
I'm about right. I'm on my third mic that actually will plug in and be recognized by Windows. There's something completely jacked up with Windows.
Wow.
All Things Radio is asking, what about 12-2 solid copper wire for antennas? And if that is what you have, then run
Roll
with it,
with
my
it.
friend.
Yeah.
I built a 20-meter dipole using some old house wire that I had because I had it and it worked. And I took the kids out. We did a Parks on the Air activation. We learned about
remember
building
that.
antennas and trimming them and made contacts. I made a contact from here in Luck, Wisconsin, down into someplace in New Mexico, I think it was. Worked great, sounded great.
So-
Technically, the more metal in the air, the thicker the
Oh,
wire
yeah.
is instead of the smaller. The thicker the wire is, the better it is for propagation of signals.
You're wider banded that way.
It's gonna
I
be
remember
more
when-
stick with.
I remember when you made that one. I'm like, man, what do you roll that up in like a 2-foot spool?
Yep. Who's huge?
That's the only problem with solid wires. It doesn't wind it very well. If you're putting it up for permanent, that's a different story. It's not bad. Sometimes it'll stretch though too, I think.
Scott's saying high enough to minimize ground coupling. And I totally agree with you, but how high is that?
Or you have to get your ground meter out and measure the reflectometry.
How many
of the
angels can
surface of
dance on the
Earth.
head of a pin? Right.
And Don's asking a trick question here in Don
Uh-oh.
fashion. How does a counterpoise need to be on the ground? Men fed halfway transformers 25 feet in the air. And it's going to depend a little bit, right? I had a 9-to-1 that was like 15, 16 feet in the air. And so I put on a counterpoise that wasn't on the ground. It just hung straight down. Now, the thing about that is that if I'd used my coaxial cable as the shield as opposed to the counterpoise, well, guess what? That ain't on the ground either. And so you have this same situation. Now people say, well, you can tune that because it's a counterpoise, it's an elevated counterpoise, and you should tune that because it becomes part of your aerial system. Well, a 9-to-1 is a non-resonant antenna on any of the ham frequencies anyway. So what do I tune it for? So again, I just go with the 17-foot rule of thumb.
Well, that's what I was before you mocked my my origins. That's what I was. That's what I was saying. So I have an
He's
end-fed
sensitive today.
Yes.
with the Randy. What the hell? So
Go ahead, preach, Jim.
my random wire is on a fiberglass mast, not a carbon fiber mast, and the counterpoise just comes down the mast and then runs out into the ground, and the feed point
Testify.
is up
Testify.
on the top.
Look at him
as
raising
well.
hands.
Oh boy, Don's got his running down his carbon fiber mask.
I just said I can't afford a carbon fiber mast, Don. I don't have that kind of
Don, as long as you wrap it around the
folding
carbon
paper.
fiber mast, you'll get mutual inductance, and it'll all be.
Well, you
fine.
got to heat shrink it. You got to heat shrink it to the carbon fiber.
I mean, mine's probably not optimal because it's lashed to a metal building. But
Oh, and Jason is keying us up. Nice segue, Jason, for our next part of the topic. We talked about tuning dipoles, so let's talk about tuning random wires. How do you even tune a random wire?
I don't. I just cut it to 35.5 feet or 41 feet or 72 feet or whatever, and just do
But
it.
35.5 feet, that's resonant on the 18.5 centimeter band.
Yeah. Well, what I with my 35.5 footer, it's resonant on 40 meters, and I don't need a tuner for it. So I use that with my 705 or my 599. So I don't know, man. The thing is that in ham radio, every book that you pick up is going to be different than the other one that you just put down, and everybody's got a different opinion and all that. And so I think that our stance generally is use guidelines and rule of thumbs, get out there, have fun, and experiment with it. Right?
Exactly.
right,
Exactly.
if it works better, do it. If it don't, try something else.
So if you can
Right.
remember real good, I'll give you the random wire links. You ready?
Hit us, Chuck.
You guys ready? You better start writing this
Smack
down.
us. Smack us.
20, 29, 35.5, 41, 58, 71, 84, 107, 119, 148, 203, 347, 407, 407, and 423. There you go.
Did you see
Somewhere
that?
a
Any of those
Soviet
words.
1,000
spy
yard
just started
stare?
his invasion plan, Chuck.
Chuck had that
I only-
1,000-yard stare, like he's been in the shit for a long time.
So there's the ones. Those are the. Your Powerball numbers too. Yeah, I'd use all those.
Hell, I thought it was a number station. I was waiting for the spies to come get it. Whatever, man.
I have that because we're working on 9-to-1 random wire. So
So why
We're-
don't you
we are
want to have
gonna-
a resonant length of wire on a random wire antenna? What's it going to hurt?
I think you get the harmonics and stuff like that, and
I think
It
it
can
makes
be-
it harder
it can-
to tune. Also,
yeah,
Right.
it can be problematic.
So is it
It'll
not going
probably
to tune
still
at
work.
all?
it'll probably.
I would imagine you could tune. Again, tuning. I don't know if that really makes it resonant. That makes it a match, right? But you could tune it. But again, the reason I do it is
Hey,
because
Bill.
all of the reading and the studying I did from the giants whose shoulders I stand on, right? We're like, this is what we did. This is the rule of thumb, and this is what we came up with. I tried it and didn't have a compelling enough reason to try something different.
Right. I don't know, man. I did this one the other day. This is like our prototype, and 41 feet
portable.
was really good. I'm surprised.
Right.
I don't know what I've got another one. I don't remember what I cut. I've got I forget the brand, but it works good too.
So the 9-to-1, we're actually wrapping the toroid a little bit differently. So you get to learn yet another wrapping skill. We've done a 49-to-1, we've done a 1-to-1, and now we're doing a 9-to-1. And on the 9-to-1, basically the wires just make an extra trip or something along those lines. How does that work out, Chuck?
Somebody may have a actual
I got
diagram. He's got one.
Oh, I can pull up the diagram, but it's a
Yeah, pull up the-
trifilar. I don't think it's how you say that. Trifilar winding. So it's 3 wires
3 wires.
to go around. And here you go.
Don't they connect back? Like the red goes all the way around one full trip around the toroid, and then connects to the green, which goes all the way around. How does that work?
Yeah, give me a second to get the diagram that we drew up.
Yeah, and for our antenna, so there's the bottom of it. And when you wind it, you're going to have to take one of the wires. And it's going to go all the way around and up to this point here where
Landing
you hook your
lug.
wire to. So if you get one of our antennas when we have these, make sure you listen to or read the directions, because you don't want to end up with a 2-inch piece of wire hanging out, and you can't. Well, you can always add to it, but I'll give you specific sizes.
To carry all.
And I need to give that to the boys here before they build theirs. I'm sure they figure it out, but one guy's going to get
Don's asking, what is the
a nice
recommended
one already
height
done,
above
but-
ground for a random wire? And I think yes is the answer.
Yeah.
get it above ground.
I think mine's about 20 feet, 25 feet, somewhere in there.
What did I was about
Well, I think it
20
depends on how you're
20
mounting
feet.
it too, right?
Right.
Chuck, I'm gonna let you explain it.
Oh, you're better at this stuff than I am.
So
Can you make it bigger?
I can't because the snip and sketch is
Oh,
frozen.
right.
I see that. Oh, it's frozen. Okay.
Yeah, see that line down here is me trying to make the screen bit to try to embiggen it, and
Oh, jeez. Freaking Windows.
right.
Amen.
And so what you do is you have 9 wraps of 3 that go around, and then what you do is you take on the top side the innermost winding, which in this case will be a blue wire, and you run that to ground. And then you take your outermost wire from the top and you attach that to your middlemost wire. So that gives you an extra set of windings around the toroid. And then the last one is you take the middle winding from the top and you hook it to the outermost from the bottom, and then you run that to the antenna element connector on your SO239.
Right.
Now that ground, what we typically do on one of these antennas, I can go grab it 9-to-1 if we want, is that I tie that into one of these ground posts where you have the bolts that mount this to the chassis of your SO239, and then thus connects to the shield of the antenna. But I also set up a ground lug on the body of the antenna winder or the box or whatever it is, so I can hook a counterpoise to the ground there as well.
Yeah.
And so what I was talking about earlier is if you start with that blue wire connected to ground, it runs 9 times around the toroid, comes out the far end, and connects to the black, which then goes back onto the toroid, runs 9 times around,
Right.
comes out, connects to the red, which goes back onto the toroid, runs around 9 times, comes out, and connects to your antenna. So it's really... I'm asking this question because I literally don't know the answer to this. Could I just do one wire, 27 wraps around the toroid instead of 3 wires?
If you're good. But you're going to have to tap it to get it to ground, right?
And there's not some mutual strange inductance going on because of the 3, like you're not getting an amplification as well.
No, our friend Matt Hare, when he was on somebody's channel, I can't remember who it was, it might have been ours, he says that he winds his with a single piece of wire, and just makes the adjustments accordingly, and he claims that it's easier, and it might be, I don't know. I've always done it this way, and I've never had any problem. And I've built dozens of these things, and it works.
It's tight. It won't look like Ape's picture here when you get done, because he obviously did that on a 240 or bigger, or maybe that big massive one he has.
Yeah.
It barely fits.
Well, here it is on the. Let me
140.
remove this. Here it is on a 140, so you can see it's a lot tighter than it is. I've got a video where I do it on a 240. You can see that you have a lot more working room, a lot more breathing room
really-
there.
Looks
And
like it's
if you're not good
wire
at
on there,
winding,
too.
if you're not good at winding, you can use a 400, a T400 tool.
Nice.
Can I get one of those? I need to get one of those.
Yeah, I don't think it'll fit on our frame though.
That's a toroid for your hemorrhoid.
Yeah, I
goes
think you can
around the-
actually
it goes
feed. I
around
think
the
you can.
frame.
I think you can actually take our frame and pass it through the center of this.
Last
And when
time
I-
you did that, you got your hand stuck.
That was the Polystealth wire spool that I got my hands
He
in.
had the old lady bring the Crisco. They probably got buckets of it. Say, honey, get the Crisco.
Or
She's
bring the cooking
"Ooh,
grease."
It's early in the day for that.
I was like, bring the cooking grease.
Jim TMI.
So this is. I thought I'd share this. This is the plot.
You got something on the bottom there.
Yeah, I don't know why it's showing
Click,
that.
click. Nope. Click the image, not the arrow.
Yeah, I know. I don't. I would just want to show the image.
Click the image itself. Hey,
There we go.
go.
That must have been
It's a day.
That must have been an
IT
InfoSec
guy.
issue.
Teamwork
TK.
makes the dream work.
Stop it with really just race car. So,
Goose Fraba.
so this is my 9-to-1 right after I hooked it up, and this is the 35.5 foot. This is about 25 feet on one end, and the other end is as high as I could chuck a bag into a tree limb. So,
Yes.
I mean, it's not perfect on any band, but geez, it works pretty darn good. It's below
Well,
3
what's-
to 1.
Yeah,
From
you have to
40
say below
40 on
3 to
up.
1 means you could use your internal tuner on like a 7300, for example, which is
Yeah.
awesome, right?
Yeah. And surprise, surprise, on 12 meters, this thing kicks serious butt. It's awesome. I've made bazillions of 12-meter FT8 on this, and it works well on everything up through 40 as well, or down through 40, however you want to look at that.
How long is yours?
35.5.
Whoa, Chuck, back it off.
Right.
So I saw, who was it? Randall. He says his is 154 feet, which is not one of the numbers I read out, but if it works, it works.
It works. That's right.
Yeah,
And
so
I
somebody
just-
was saying it's not technically a random wire. No, it's not. It's a near random wire, I guess is the right way to
If
say
Thump
it.
was here, we'd have to put him up on the podium, up on the soapbox, because he doesn't like the word random wire. He says NFED, not resonant.
Yeah,
There you go.
he's got some kind of acronym that he puts
He
on
is
there.
here. He was here. Right?
Hefner. No, I meant on the show.
Oh,
the
on
stream.
on this show.
Well, Don, maybe you're odd. How about that?
He didn't say it was. He
resonant
didn't
on-
say. He
It's
didn't say it
resonant
was
as hell on
resonant.
12.
Ape standing up for
Oh,
his
is
little
it?
brother. That's nice. you leave
I
my
mean-
little brother alone.
QED, there it is, buddy. That's what she shows up with. That's with an LDG 9-to-1 Balin, whatever you want to call it.
So Scott's saying it's NFED long wire, and there's actually a definition for a long wire antenna, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but a long wire is supposed to
That's
be
the
like
one, Tio.
a half wave or something like
Yeah.
here.
These
look
things
at
are
that.
great.
Cute little boxes.
Yeah.
Yep, mine's been up for ever since I got the Flex, maybe a little before.
You just
So
had
I
to
don't
say
know what
flex,
kind of-
didn't you?
Unicorn horn dust that they put in those little boxes because they say that this thing can do 100 watts or 200 watts or
200, man.
200.
Yeah.
That looks small for a. That doesn't have a 140 in it.
but then you get
Well,
people who are like you need at least a T400 to get 100 watts digital, you know what I mean? And,
You need to put that toroid down for something else before you get stuck in it. I'm just saying.
I don't want to drop it and bust something.
Or
I'd
your
actually
foot.
cry if I busted the tow rod. That thing was like 40 bucks.
If it hits that toe, son, you will be crying. Mhm.
Yeah, if it hit my gout toe.
You need to get like 3 of those
what I'm
and stack
saying.
them.
3 of what? 3 of these?
No, 3 of those 400s.
3 of those 400s.
Stack them, and do an
Well,
infant
give me a
halfway
1.21
1200.
gigawatts.
Got me a
use some,
1200, boy.
Use some 12 gauge wire for your wrapping.
Because I was actually thinking about getting all excited and making a 3-way switch for this stuff.
See,
Today's
that would
show
be
is
kind of
sponsored by
fancy.
He has them all.
There's
Yeah,
they have a
I've got-
blue.
I'm missing the
They have a
orange
blue
one. and
one.
The blue one. The orange one's
I've
the
got-
49. What's the blue one?
I can't remember. They had a sale on them at
Yeah.
R&L. I should have gone deep on them.
You gotta buy one. Yeah, it's just it's what hams do. We collect stuff that we don't necessarily have a use for.
Easy question. Anything below 3 to 1 is a good day, and the lower the better.
When a good cut on a NFED half wave, you should have 1.5 on,
Yeah.
or less on 40, 30, 40, 20, 15, and 10. 15 might be a little bit iffy.
Watch Mike's video on our antenna when he's. I want to get the measurements of that thing because it was like like 1-to-1 on almost everything. I don't know what he did.
Using lossy coax, probably.
That's probably what it was.
Well, they got
Probably
five.
Jason,
Black
name a
one's
ham
58.
who doesn't have a gas problem. Just saying.
Right. The black one is a 1-to-1. The gray one is a 4-to-1. And so
Voltage.
this is where I get confused. The gray one is a 4-to-1 voltage. The green one is a 4-to-1 current.
current.
And then the 9-to-1 is the red. So they're missing the orange because they have an orange one that's a 49-to-1. And then this blue one, what's the blue one?
1-to-1.
1-to-1
1-to-1.
If two
1-to-1?
1-to-1s?
current or Full
Just-
clip.
It says it's a 1-to-1 UNA, not a 1-to-1 Balun.
Balun.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's the black one's current, and the white one would be voltage, I guess. And then the Pixie's all sold out.
Pixie Balun.
Isn't that
10,
precious?
10 to 1.
That's got to be QRP though, right?
Yeah, it is. With a name like Pixie, it's got to be.
Right.
Yeah, you should be able to. Oh, you should be able to get your in-fed half wave to 1.5 to 1 on most of the bands. Sometimes is it 15? 15 is a little high sometimes, I think, right? A little higher,
Yeah.
if I remember right.
So check and see if R&L's got them in stock.
Usually do.
And those are for a more permanent type of setup, like Jim's doing. Like I said earlier, ours are predominantly for portable use.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so my question is, what about it won't last out in the weather?
Which one? Ours?
Yeah.
It's not
R&L's
waterproof.
got a new website. Uh-oh.
Yeah, the nylon's really good, but it's not technically waterproof unless you paint it or something. I don't know that it would hurt it. I've left my freaking
Oh, yeah, my-
I've left my PLA ones out before, not having problems. Look at
Look
John's
who it
here.
is.
Howdy ho, John ho. Yeah, well, I mean, I had my Apollo out for 2 or 3 weeks, and
Oh, I have too.
okay.
Yeah, I think that when these were on sale, they were like 20 a pop.
The other thing I wouldn't leave. I mean, I'd use different wire if I was going to leave it out. I think,
R&L with their fancy
like
new
we talked
website.
about earlier.
Yep. If
at
they have a
that.
modernized website, I can't shop there any longer. It's just not a ham radio to me.
It's not ham. It's dead to me now.
Well, calm down. It's not that modern. It's it's in the last. It's only maybe 15 years ago. Not GeoCities level of old.
Oh, look
Shoot.
at that.
Special today, 580.
Oh man, look at that! I'm about ready to sell my 705 and get that one.
You should.
Look at that, two per customer.
Really?
Big seller.
Nice.
Limit too.
I
Yeah.
don't see their used gear anymore.
It's there, right up there on the left under used equipment.
It looks like Thump's still with us. He's had PET
is.
out
He
there.
was-
Go down.
PETG.
Stop.
Oh, I
Stop.
see it. I see it. It's not where it belongs. It's under
They-
manufacturers.
And the reason I say they did update it, but it's still a little sketch on the used. You can search by model number now. And what I do is I just grab the whole thing into a table and dump it into Excel, and then I can sort it.
Where's Thump's thing there? I printed some PETG. My new printer.
No
I've got to
flex
buy a.
videos, Tim. Sorry.
I
I'm
got to
good,
buy
man.
a
I'm
separate nozzle for that dang thing because it's not quite hot enough.
There is a
So-
used 6400 on Flex's site. I'm just saying.
Our buddy 45, he's saying his Artemis is outside all the time. When it rains, he puts a Dollar General bag around it. And those Dollar General bags,
High
man,
class.
yeah, they work good.
They call those the down in Baja. That's the flour, the state flour, basically down
The
there.
Dollar General.
Yeah, I think it's Walmart bags, but
I got to tell you, man. So when the kids were younger, and I would have to take all the kids and their friends to the movie theater, I would take them to the Dollar General, and I would say, "Look, y'all get
Load your
$5."
pockets.
Right? I was like, "Y'all get $5 worth of candy." I was like, "So go ahead and pick out 5 things." And this one little kid came up to me and was like, "Well, she got a bag of candy that has more pieces than the bag of candy that I've got, so I should be able to get an additional bag of candy to equal the same pieces of candy count that she." And I'm like, "Look, you can take your politicking somewhere else, kid. It ain't like that. This is a dictatorship."
Darren!
And I was like, "And if you want, you can get
Nice,
the Charleston
Darren.
chews too, but you chose to get something else." Hey, look, Matt's here.
Jaron, congratulations. Way to go.
Yeah, awesome, man.
There we go.
was Jim playing that?
Nope.
It wasn't me.
That was off the site because, again, audio stack completely hammered.
Well, I was saying it because it was clicking. I was just wondering.
We were talking about you earlier, Matt. Glad you showed up to defend your comment, your name.
And your single wire 901.
He's like
Single wire.
Beetlejuice.
No, it was a
You
single
mentioned
wire.
his name
That's what Adam does for the for his in-fed half wave, right? Single wire. all the way around, and you start after so many winds, you start pulling them off to tune it? No,
Well,
no, no,
you're talking about the secondary winding, right?
no.
And he does a 3 to 20. He does a 3 to 21 ratio.
Yeah, but I don't think he does the double in the front, does he? Maybe
He does. He does. But he might run them in parallel as opposed to twisted, but he does the primary, secondary.
He says it's a little more efficient, but I don't know.
They have a better coefficient of coupling.
Auto transformers.
All right.
Transformers.
So the 9-to-1 is not necessary to tune. You just kind of get it close and you cut it and you put it on the frame and you go to town. Some people say that 9-to-1s are a little noisier. Is that because they're usually run vertically, or is it just because there's something special about them that makes them noisier?
What I've noticed is it's a orientation of how they're mounted, right? So like when I did the Urchi or the Irchi, I'm not sure how you say that, 9-to-1, it was pretty noisy, but I did 25 feet as opposed to a longer length, and I mounted it almost completely vertical. And so I believe that's what was the issue or the challenge there. So typically what I try to do is use like a 35.5 footer or a 41 footer and then mount it as a sloper, and it's less noisy, but it's noisier than a like a dipole or something like that. Of course.
The other thing you might try is the direction you have it, because I know for a fact, because I have Yagis and stuff, certain directions are quieter than others.
Mm-hmm.
So you might just, if you have a lot of noise, you might move your antenna and just try a different direction. Usually you go north and south, so because it's off the sides, right? So you want east and west usually. Like for me, it's mainly east. But,
Well, see, my backyard is surrounded by houses. I've got houses everywhere, so I'm sure that I'm picking up blenders and all that stuff.
yeah, and every once in a while I'll get just really nasty. I have a school over that way from my house, and I think something over there every once in a while is on. It just is like a buzz across the whole band, but just certain bands sometimes, but not very often. So you might just change direction for your antenna just to see if it helps if you have a lot of noise at your place.
Have you ever done the 9-to-1 vertical? Any of y'all?
The
I
Irchi
haven't.
9-to-1, I did.
I did it once.
The Irchi?
I didn't like it, and I put it. No, I'm kidding. No, I did it once because Abe sent the kit out for Leah, and Leah built it, so I played with that for a little bit. It was pretty cool. I like the idea that it's just a no fuss antenna. You just throw it up in the air, and you're on, and you're operating. And
Right.
Oh, yeah.
let's take the worry out of it in the beginning instead of worrying about it all the time.
It's
Yeah, mine
strange on
was
that.
super easy to put up. There's nothing.
It's
to it.
strange on that 9-to-1. I have a few of the bands that are above 3-to-1, but my 991 will tune everything. I don't quite understand it. And like I said, it may not be good on some of those bands.
Well,
it's not really long enough.
The 991 is a 3-to-1 tuner.
It's just 3-to-1. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's exceptional. I mean, it's like everything else. Not like that Kenwood that To and
That was a 10-to-1 in that Kenwood, I believe.
yeah.
That Kenwood was
I
fantastic.
wonder what my I have that old Kenwood. I loaned it out to my nephew because he used a new ham, and I wasn't using it, so I let him use it. And I think actually was somebody pumped it a little bit, totally loaded. It's a TS 440.
Yeah,
I don't know what the tuner was in that one. It was a quiet tune. I didn't think it worked. First time I pushed the button, it's like
You didn't hear
it
the
doesn't
clickety
work.
clack.
Oh no, nothing like my Yaesu. But hopefully he's using it. I haven't seen him in here in a while, but I haven't talked.
Well, I was
to him
messing with
recently.
that ATU 100, and that thing is so much cricking, clacking, and creaking. It sounds like my knees when I get up in the morning.
My buddy can tell a Yaesu when it tunes on the radio when you hear it. He says, "Oh, there's somebody's tuned up their Yaesu."
Because of the drift, or
Yeah, I'm sure it's the drift because it goes across the whole band or something.
what? Explain it.
I don't know. Mine's noisy. Both. I got.
And what are you
Let's
drinking?
see. I got two Yaesus. They're both noisy.
We have a full house tumbler here.
Oh, we did. I drained this one. I'm on number 2.
Oh, geez.
He's been working on. He was working on a number 2 earlier. That's what.
I started.
That's what could make it.
Come on, Chuck.
I started with this one.
Oh,
And,
sorry.
had
Yeah,
to
I got
move.
mine.
Yeah, look at that.
There we go. Full house today. And where, if
That's
you
a
guys
focus.
wanted a tumbler, where would you get a tumbler from? I think
Yes.
coffeeandhamradios.com is the place to
Coffee,
get them.
coffee, and hamradios.com.
How many of them do we got left, Jim?
17, 18, something like that.
Wow.
Randall
got
saying
huh?
Walt would be a good antenna guest. We've actually had Walt on twice.
Twice, yeah.
Maybe 3 times. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walt's fantastic.
Walt likes the antenna. He's like me. He likes antennas.
But Walt is always welcome.
We also have the sticker packs too.
Did you get
we
the
have-
new ones on the? Is the site updated with the new cap?
Yeah. We have 97
Nice.
of the new batch of sticker packs at a new lower price.
Yeah, I got to make some
economy
Mercury
It's the
biscuits.
sale price, but lower than the price
Yeah.
before the sale.
Yep.
We've got
The
one Mercury left.
intermediary. Just one.
One
Just
what,
one.
Chuck?
One Mercury left.
One Merc.
Yes. And
Son, you've been
son.
selling.
So I
We've
guess-
been selling more
I guess-
Mercuries than anything the last 3 weeks.
there
a
for
lot
a
of
couple
Mercuries.
for a few days there. It was Mercury's. Yeah, I'm putting. Usually on Monday mornings, I'm mailing 5 or 6 antennas. So
Nice.
Well, those linked
I
dipoles
appreciate it, guys.
are really popular with soda people, right? Don't the soda
ones?
folks, the
Those
linked
soda
dipoles,
people.
the
The
Mercury.
Mercury.
Yeah, because when you're doing soda, I mean you're looking for every advantage you can get, and dipole's a little bit better than infed half
Yeah.
wave. But the infed half wave's super popular with those guys though, because it's so easy to put up. And if you have like a tuner like my KX2, I might go with a 9-to-1 because it saves you space. That's that's one of the advantages. I mean, depending on the wire length you fix, because we're going to do 41 feet, and our infant halfway's like 23 feet longer than that usually, around that 20-ish feet. So
Yeah.
we'll save you some.
Mike, are they
Some
talking about
ground.
their gout colonoscopies?
What are you talking about?
The lawn sprinkler version. They might be talking about lawn sprinklers. I don't know.
It's the lawn sprinkler. Well, he's in a construction channel, and apparently they're talking about
Oh,
the old lady's medical problems and stuff like that.
I used to do 80 a lot. I had a good group of guys. So
And Matt
Gary
mentioned
on
this. He does and he's throwing out the air quotes, random wire, and I get really good 40-meter performance on mine as well.
yeah, Matt's right. That's Elecraft actually. They tout that wire. It's just a counterpoise and a piece of wire, and just throw it in the tree. Who was it? Our Kevin? Was it Kevin? R.I.P. Rest in peace. K6 R.I.P.
He was the guy, the rescue guy, right?
W6 RIP.
Is it
Yeah,
W6?
RIP.
I think so.
I met him at Pacificon, or not Pacificon, Mount Pacifico with Josh and those guys, and it was the next day, but that's what he was using with his little Elecraft, and he was just killing it. I mean, and he would point his ground radio to which direction you wanted, so it went north and south. The whole antenna.
boss.
And he was just hanging it with his pole. He didn't use his pole. He took his pole, put the wire on it, and just hung it in a tree. And that was
So
his
Ken
setup.
saying that about selling, he says we need to sell metric tape measures. So I don't know if he means that we need to sell metric tape measures, but the problem is, and just being 100% transparent, because that's what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
If we buy a boatload of metric tape measures, which we might be able to do and get them at a good price, we have to mark them up tremendously to cover shipping. Because for 2 reasons. One is it's expensive to ship within the United States. And the other piece is that we have to get a tracking number on there because everybody demands a tracking number. It's cheaper to ship the tape measure individually from China to you with a tracking number than it is from one state away inside the United States.
Yeah, shipping's getting
It's
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
and there's a more practical consideration of that too. Jim's wife is not going to allow a case of tape measures to sit around in the way either. Because I'm right on the edge. I'm right on the edge with the tumblers and all the dang.
Well, you took her
boards
out to
and-
dinner the other night, didn't you?
Hey, you
I
guys
did.
went to Sizzler.
You got like another month, right?
I chucked a biscuit at her. She's all right for now.
I was being nice. Chucked a
but
biscuit
the
at her.
but the
Wow.
thing is that
Sorry, Mrs. Perry.
maybe the Red Lobster.
we've looked at buying like stuff to say, oh, here's a set of wire snippers that we could bundle into the antenna for you. But it just becomes such a logistical shipping and all this pain.
We'd be better off to sell them with an antenna.
Right, to sell with, you have to buy the antenna to get the snippers, then just sell the snippers.
Because then I could stuff that in the box.
And it gets weird. I mean, since we're entering our shipping problems, the other thing that's a little strange too is when, and don't not do it, but when you order an antenna, it's coming from the California shipping department. When you order
2
a
days
tumbler,
usually.
when you order a tumbler, it's coming from Alabama. So those combo orders are a little complicated because I got to make sure Chuck. You know, I
complain about my post office, but you guys remember when we first started selling antennas and sending them from a certain area? They always got lost, and we very few problems.
Only problem.
Jim and I had to work one out the other day, and we don't know. We still don't know what happened on that.
We think
what
we
do you
got
mean
it
by work
squared
one out?
None of your business. You just go about your business, son.
You let sales and shipping take care of it.
Yeah, we got
Mr.
it,
President. Mr. President.
Mr. President.
But it's a pain, right?
Yeah. I mean, like the sticker packs are not bad. They're in a small box, and the old lady addresses the envelopes because nobody could read my writing. So, but
have you guys seen the Domino guy make the boxes?
Yeah, the Noid.
You have to say that. Avoid the Noid.
That's Chuck. No, I'm not that fast, really. Every once in a while, I'll do a bunch of boxes up because
does Mrs. Chuck help you, or does
no? Well, she does. I won't say no. She doesn't do the wrapping or any of that, but she does take them to the post office sometimes because she goes down there anyhow.
Well, the post office must think that you're a bunch of kooks going in there, with 25 boxes. And
the girls know me by my first name now. I mean, shoot.
They're like, oh, Charles.
That's Charles again.
He's so dreamy.
Just talk to us, Chuck. Just talk to us. We just want to hear that voice.
Yeah. That was the lady in the
we
Chinese
do
place that one night.
We do the sticker packs. Don't get shipping labels because they go in an A4. I think it's an A4 envelope.
Yeah,
I don't. Right? I just
they
print
fit in
out
an
paper
A4
and tape
with the
it.
stamp. They fit in an A4 with the stamp, and any overseas orders are one-offs depending on where they're going. And we do allow. I think I did allow overseas on sticker packs automatically because I discovered the Global Forever stamp is $1.45, and if it's under an ounce, which a sticker pack is, we good.
He does have a printer because I got something from him the other day, and it was printed. It was on a nicer sticker than I just printed it on a piece of paper. It's what?
Are you talking about my printer? My printer's laser, man. I ain't had no dot matrix since 1996.
A laser. You use air quotes when you say
I replaced my Deck Rider 300 with a LaserJet 4 or something like that.
When I was in college, I bought a dot matrix color printer, which was expensive at the time.
Folding some paper back in the day.
But the thing is that when I would turn in my homework, the teacher would be like, I guess they're called professors in college, would be like, this isn't exactly right or this isn't exactly accurate, but the effort that you must have put in there to get these color graphs and I'd always get a bump for that.
So a little extra shine.
Yeah. Nobody else was doing that at the time.
Well, they kiss up. One of these guys.
Yes, Matt. I used a Deck Rider until I couldn't get ribbons for it anymore. I don't have my Spock pictures anymore that I printed off on it.
I'm getting pretty good with the packing tape, and because if you put the packing tape over one of those labels, I just do mine on paper. It pulls it up and it's all messes it all up. I'm getting pretty fast now.
You're going to be waiting a long time, Don. You might be able to wrap a sticker around a quarter or something like that.
Yeah. Coins.
I mean, if you actually can meet up with the primate at a ham fest somewhere, he'll touch a quarter for you, and then you'll have an icon. This was blessed by the smoking ape himself in person.
The talisman.
in person. But
check this out. This will be I gave myself a kit.
Oh, that's it, Ape. You could bless toroids. We're going to sell that.
That's what you boys are getting. You guys, two of you guys are getting something just like this. And one guy's getting something a little bit different, but
somebody's getting a pre-wound.
One of us can't wind a toroid.
I had to test it.
One of us hates the crap out of winded toroids, man.
I wanted to see if the certain amount of length worked. So I got one.
I'm getting a testeroid. Awesome.
Yeah, and it's not perfect, believe me, but it's close.
It's probably 1,000 times better than if I did it.
I sat there and looked at Ape's his little graphic and still wound it backwards.
I mean, I think
Can't you just flip it over though? If you
Ryan,
want
it's about time.
No, the wires were different. It was something. No, because the length. I need the
Chris.
long one in a certain place.
Right.
Well, good evening for you.
I think we're missing
It might
a
have
business
worked.
opportunity here too. I think
I
we
didn't
need
want-
to buy some Toroids, a whole stack
Hey,
of them,
Chris. My
and
favorite
have Abe
UK
show
ham.
up and bless them
Oh,
in person.
And then why? And wind
Oh,
them
a
all.
ceremony. A ceremony.
$30
yes.
to meet with Ape, speak to him with a capital H, speak to him, and he will touch this Toroid and give it to you. $30 upfront cash.
Yep.
Hey, when I was at Orlando at Hamcation, some guy comes up and he had this lady friend with him, and he says, really nice guy. So I'm not making fun. I'm definitely not making fun. And so he goes, "Hey man, can I take a picture of you with my wife?" And I looked around. I was like, right here. Joking around.
Good answer.
I thought you were going to say she
You wanna
wants
do
a
that
baby
here?
and she wants you to be the baby daddy.
No, but it was, it was weird, man, because I've never had anything like that happen.
Exactly right, Matt. I sprinkle Miller Lite on thee. Here is thine Toroid. Go with God, my child.
Hey man,
Right,
the
right. I'm just
demand for
saying,
Miller
you can-
Lite is going up. It's now the #1 premier beer in the United
It
States.
is.
Prices are increasing on it.
Brian, you can play FT8 while you watch the show. I'm just saying. I mean, that's what we do here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's happened a lot.
Some people do.
Ape, you're gonna have to stop drinking Miller Lite. It's gonna be out of your price range here in a minute.
And
Now,
I'm gonna have to
speaking-
go back to Stroh's.
Speaking of Hamvention,
My brother-in-law used to work for Stroh's. They're not even around here anymore.
I don't even know if they're around or not.
speaking of Hamvention, I'm going to go. Charles is going. T.O. is doing a
Almost
turn
got
and
it.
burn.
Yep.
Maybe. Yes, still.
Yo, I'm doing a turn and burn, so I'll be there, but you won't see me at the fairgrounds.
Yeah. He's going to pop out a sublight, turn around, and head back out at full warp. And what about yourself there, Primate?
Listen, if I was going, I wouldn't tell anybody because the women folk will get whipped up into a fever. And
I just thought I'd ask.
They'd sell out, right?
Yeah, they
Right.
would, I mean,
It'd be all
instantly
women then.
fairgrounds. It would be like when the Beatles landed. You know what I mean? Like
No,
it would
I'm
just.
I'm not pulling a Jim. I'm actually going to be there. I'm just not going to be there long enough.
Yeah,
to be
Jim
noticed.
didn't make it, guys.
Or Jim called out
Jim,
sick.
Jim didn't even leave the house. He just left.
Jim
his
did
brother
not
hanging.
leave the house. Jim called Steve and said,
I'm
That was
in my
your-
car halfway to the airport, and I lost my ride. Like,
Yeah, that
whoa.
was your seventh. That was your
the
seventh
air.
time having COVID, right?
no, that wasn't COVID. That was a cold post-COVID. Jeez, I was coughing and hacking so bad. It was terrible. This sounds like 80 meters. It was not COVID that time. I've had COVID
So
before.
there is an over/under on when Jim will cancel his trip to Dayton. So if anybody
The
wants
day,
to get in on
which
that,
day?
Yeah, exactly. Just,
There's an
you know what?
over-under on when I'll get COVID again, too.
I should get his money for the room now, right?
right? I'd be
know,
like, son, this is prepay. This is prepay up in here.
Prepay, James.
Yeah, you need the cash now. Well, Steve got a room at half price. I mean, I paid for my half of the room Steve slept in.
I was just
He
joking,
probably
James.
was moving back and forth between beds, messing
it
each one of them up.
it was the least you could do, Jim.
Right.
For 2 nights. He didn't need the maid. He had a,
very
a
least.
fresh bed.
So is Matt doing a POTA form?
Yeah,
That's
Matt,
awesome,
Mr.
man.
Poda.
How about that?
Oh wow. Oh yeah, because he's
They're having an SDR
Randy?
form. They're
I
having
knew
an
of
SDR
Matt way
form. The guys
before I
from
knew who
Flex.
Matt was from the POTA site.
On Friday night. They're having an SDR conversation. I might have to sit in on that if I go.
There's a
Or
lot
they?
of good stuff going on at Hamvention
There's
this
a
year.
lot of stuff.
I need to look
Just
at the list.
scheduling the stuff you want to see is hard enough.
And you're not going to see it all, no matter how hard you try, because it's
Hey,
that
Craig, how you
big.
doing, buddy? So, Sam said,
Craig.
are any of all y'all in the YouTubers forum thing? I believe it's an open invite for all the YouTube creators, but
Yeah.
that Joker
Just
is
don't take
early
the
in-
flag in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that Joker is early in the morning, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I don't know.
I haven't even looked at a schedule yet, so I don't know.
I've hung out with those guys before, so. Just
I mean, I was at the one in Huntsville. Steve was on stage. Me and Joe Brett sat in the trailer park section.
Get there early.
We didn't get up there on the stage. Well, no,
I just don't feel
we're not
worthy
important.
of some of those guys, man. I'm just a
I don't know that I'd
country bum
use
out
that
here.
word. I just,
Yeah, I wouldn't get up on any stage because I'm just a regular dude. You know what I mean? Like I don't.
Right.
Anime, I'm working on it. I don't know about these fellers. Chuck and I.
Anime, I don't know where you've been. I've been there like 4 times, so
Quartzsite girl. I'm
Just
going
saying.
to have to fly to get to Quartzsite.
I've met Anime. She came
At
down
the
for Pacificon,
Pacificon, right?
which
I would love to meet.
it's the
meet
biggest in
Anime.
California. It's not big.
Yeah, I'm sure you would, but I don't know if Anime'd love to meet you, son.
Right?
What?
I mean,
Oh,
she could
you
get
said something
COVID
else
from
there for a
me.
second.
She'd have to wear a mask.
Nobody shake Jim's hand. That's all
Yes.
I'm saying. Just don't shake Jim's hand.
What's that, Jim? Here's my mask.
Right.
Well, fellers, we have reached the end of another fantastic Coffee and Ham Radio's Saturday morning stream. I'd like to thank each and every single one of you watching at home and my esteemed panel of experts here and Jim as well for showing up late. And
Yeah, I hope
just
you
wanted
guys
to
had
say,
fun.
73. It was
Well,
fantastic.
73.
before you hit the button, Kyle
hovering.
and I will be doing a Node Red stream tomorrow afternoon at 4
Oh,
p.m.
your
Awesome,
channel?
man.
Whose
on my channel. On my
You
channel.
got to tell that part too.
FEP Labs Radio.
Well, I'm
Can
going to
we
bring
do
the
it?
Mac back if I can't unscrew Windows in the
Can't
next
you do
few hours.
a Node Orange or something like that? Why is it got to be red?
Because they call
Yeah,
it
we
red,
didn't-
Chuck. It's
we didn't make
Node
the name,
Red,
man.
Code Red, whatever. I don't make
Red
the name.
fades in the sun, man.
He's bringing the Mac back, is what he said.
Is
Yeah,
that what he said?
if I can't get Windows unscrewed, I'm putting the Mac back in service.
I would check
over
the
here.
I would check the interface between the chair and the keyboard. That's the first place.
Oh, you stop!
It's a layer,
it, man.
layer 8 problem. Got to put it in
Oh,
InfoSec terms. It's a layer 8 problem.
You went there. You went there. We weren't
So
going
anyway,
to say it.
we're going to install Node Red on a Pi and hook it up to my Flex.
I'm gonna have to
and
watch it and see what it's about.
Do a whole
When
bunch
is
of
that,
Node
tomorrow
Red
night?
stuff. Tomorrow at
Tomorrow,
4 p.m. Central.
4 p.m. Central, so 2 o'clock here. Wow.
You'll be on a yurt.
You know what? I've been off the yurt for a few days. I have feeling in my hands from not using the impact guns and stuff. You know,
It doesn't make
oh,
noise
this
when
is-
you stand up now.
I'm hovering. I'm
Oh,
hovering.
man, we did make a mistake on it.
I
it was my
hit
fault.
it. I hit it.
Gotta fix it. Hit it.
These boys
I don't
ain't
want to
gonna
talk
shut
about
Bye,
it.
guys.
no matter what.
Thanks, everybody. Had a great time.
73 all.